After tracking Hurricane Lee for several days, here's one update on the system for what to expect and where the system can go and what its possible intensity could be. Starting off with the satellite loop, this system, due to some unexpected shear the models did not pick up on, the system did weaken from its Category 5 peak, but it is starting to strengthen back from its Category 2 strength earlier today, and it could be a Category 3 as of now. You'll notice the eye is starting to become well defined once again, with the convection wrapping around. The northern and northeastern side of the storm is kind of weak as of now, but the center of circulation is starting to clear out once again, as you could see in the center of your screen. Now, looking at the intensity as of now, it is actually a Category 3 now, as of 18Z September 10th, and is expected to become a mid and Category 4. I would not be surprised if it was a high end Category 4, but it should not stay a high end Category 4 for long. A mid to low end Category 4 down to Category 3 is likely after around 2 or 3 days. Looking at now the GFS model and the other models as well, depending on the placement of two troughs and the strength of the ridge, that will determine the exact placement, well, the track of the system. So the GFS is calling for right now the first trough to go to the north of it, and the high pressure to steer it slightly inwards before continuing on its way north. And the second trough actually pushes it quickly off the coast after making landfall in possibly Cape Cod and then Maine or Nova Scotia. Now, the European is slightly different. What it shows is south this Hurricane Lee, being south of the first trough, but this trough is weak enough where it doesn't really turn Lee inward to the west too much, and the ridge is not strong enough to push it uh, westward. So the second trough does not have time as well to push it off. The system just plows north towards Nova Scotia, and then moves off to Quebec and Labrador as a post-tropical cyclone. Now, there is also a discrepancy in the models for landfall timing. On the GFS, we see a landfall from Saturday to Sunday, and then on the European, we see a landfall early Monday or late Sunday. So, what this is telling me is we have a possible landfall period from early Monday to late Friday to early Monday, especially on the western end of things. We could see earlier landfall, and a later landfall will likely be in these parts over here in the southern part of Newfoundland and New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. Now, as of now, the most likely track has been towards southeast Nova Scotia or the border of Maine and New Brunswick. Now, that is the main area that we're looking at, but we still have other possibilities of landfalling tracks. So, looking at the different ensembles, we'll look at the GFS first. We've had three main areas that I've been looking at. The main area, which is the center, the most likely track, which is shifted over time slightly westward. We've also had the far western track, which has shifted from here to this way to the northwest, and we've seen the farthest west track now something like this, with which a landfall in southwest Nova Scotia or southwest Newfoundland, and the farthest west actually passing just off the coast of Newfoundland. The reason this system isn't plowing directly west is because of the ridging, and also with that second trough, especially on some of our models, really beginning to lift this system to the north, um, and the high pressure system with the first trough preventing it from skyrocketing northward before the second trough moves in. Now, you'll notice several outliers, mainly being the one that has the system making landfall in southern New Jersey. This is very unlikely. This might remind you of Hurricane Sandy. This is very unlikely, this inland curve. A more likely scenario is a slightly inward curve off the coast of Massachusetts before a movement to the north. Now, there's still that discrepancy in the speed of the system and intensity. We'll get to the intensity in a little bit. Now, looking at the GEPS, we have a slightly bigger spread, but fewer outliers in a way. We do have the one outlier, as I mentioned, off the coast of Newfoundland or a close pass. And then we have a couple models bringing it to New England, but the majority of the models slightly to the east, we have a landfall in southwestern or south central Nova Scotia before moving on to New Brunswick and then Quebec and Labrador as a much weaker system. Now, looking at the individual areas, we could see a landfall. So, according to my forecast, as of now, this could change. We have a possible landfall area from Montauk in southeastern New York on the very tip of Long Island through Rhode Island, Cape Cod, and then if this system was to make landfall in Cape Cod, a secondary landfall would occur in Maine, and then a primary landfall, if a landfall didn't occur in Cape Cod, would be possible in Maine on this eastern side, and then this is where we get the most likely scenario as of now, a landfall in New Brunswick, Maine, especially the eastern part of Maine, going into southeast Nova Scotia, and possibly even central Nova Scotia. Then we get into the western part of Nova Scotia, which is less likely, and then as we get all the way into Newfoundland, the less likely scenario, especially as you get to the far south and west. Sorry, the far south and east. Alright, now taking a look at the landfalling intensity. So this system, which was a Category 5, will definitely not be a major hurricane at landfall. What we could expect, though, is a hurricane or post-tropical cyclone. So, for the individual landfall areas in southeast New England, or eastern New England, if we had a landfall there, we'd either see a Category 1 or weak Category 2, and at the lowest, a strong tropical storm. Now, this will probably have some tropical characteristics, or will be almost entirely post-tropical by the time it makes landfall, and right after landfall, it would likely be post-tropical. As you get farther to the south, the more likely the system will be slightly stronger at landfall, but it will still weaken as it moves inland. Now going to our border between Maine and New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, the system will probably be a very weak, a moderate tropical storm at landfall towards a borderline Category 2 storm. Whether post-tropical or not, it will make, if it makes its way here, it would have an intensity somewhere in that range, and which is slightly less than a landfall to the west. Now, after it makes landfall again, it will either turn post-tropical right after landfall, or it will be almost post-tropical due to interaction with the air masses as it gets farther north and begins to lose tropical characteristics. Now, on the western end of things, we do have, for the rest of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, we have at most a Category 1 hurricane, and at the weakest winds of a tropical storm. Now, it would likely be a post-tropical system at landfall, especially in the far eastern side of Nova Scotia or in Newfoundland. And right after landfall in Nova Scotia, it would turn post-tropical once again. So even if it is post-tropical, just like with Hurricane Sandy, I'm trying not to say that this is going to be just as powerful as Hurricane Sandy. It will be likely much less, but that does not diminish the threat at all. Preparations should be taken into consideration very soon, especially if you are in Maine, New Brunswick, and especially Nova Scotia, the central and southeastern part of it. Um, as time goes on and the forecast becomes more likely in certain areas, you will likely want to take preparations. But even as a post-tropical system, Lee will be pretty powerful at landfall. It will make landfall or a very close pass somewhere, as it cannot dive eastward, out to sea due to the ridge and the high pressure. So it wants to take the path northward of least resistance around the air masses. So it will make landfall somewhere, and whether that will be on the far eastern side of the forecast or the western side, that remains to be seen. So we'll continue to give updates on this. Now looking at the National Hurricane Center cone, this only goes out 5 days because of the discrepancy very far out. But you'll see the system will travel almost due west or just northwest, and is expected to remain a major hurricane until around Thursday evening or the afternoon, where it will likely be a hurricane moving north. On the far eastern side of things, we have a possible landfall or close pass to Bermuda, and on the west we have a movement around the middle of the distance between the east and Bermuda, the east coast of Bermuda. So the most likely track looks like a movement slightly closer to Bermuda, but that could change, and the most likely track could shift since this update. The National Hurricane Center has the system at 120 miles per hour, and as of 5 p.m. Sunday, it is to the north and east of Puerto Rico. Now, there will probably be some rough surf associated with the system moving towards the islands in the Caribbean, and we will definitely be seeing some risk of high surf in the Bahamas, and just north of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and those islands will also probably be seeing the main island of Hispaniola in Haiti and Dominican Republic, probably some waves as well, but definitely up and down the east coast from Florida to Newfoundland, we will be seeing some rough surf, and I think the hot spot along the east coast will definitely be the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and the Cape Cod region of Maryland. Nova Scotia would probably be seeing some rough surf as well, depending on the track of the storm. Now, looking at the National Hurricane Center as a whole, looking at the entire basin, Lee is at 954 millibars, so it has weakened, but Margot, it is on a strengthening trend. Margot is moving almost due north and is expected to become a hurricane and remain a hurricane through Friday. And we'll take a look at the different models for the system. For Margot, the satellite loop, we see that this system is trying to strengthen itself, but it seems to have slightly weakened in the last few frames there, as you can see, with the decreased convection. The models are pretty straightforward through the next few days, but then there is a large uncertainty with where the system will go. It could stall or make a loop, and it could move to the north, or it could move west and east and slightly curve south after. So this is unknown as of now, but it won't pose too much of a threat to land. Unlikely that the Azores will be impacted or any smaller islands off the coast of the mainland. Now looking at the intensity. Now these outliers are unlikely to happen because most of the models are following this path. As you can see, in the next 2 days, the system is expected to become a hurricane and could become a high-end Category 1, maybe even a low-end Category 2, but it will not keep that intensity for long, remaining in mid or low Category 1 status before weakening into a tropical storm as it moves north. But it is not expected to degenerate through 168 hours. So through the next 5 days, it's expected to remain a tropical system. And you can see it is at 22 north and 40 west rather, Margot, and is not really expected to make landfall in any major landmass. Now looking at the two systems right here, this system in front, Disturbance 1, has a low chance of forming, 20%, and that is mainly for the next 1 or maybe 2 days. And Disturbance 2, which will likely absorb Disturbance 1 or merge energy with it, has a higher chance of 40%. This may increase over time, and I've seen over the past few days a possible chance that this system could move to the west or west-northwest, so we'll be having to watch for that. And as I said, this system is weakening Disturbance 1, which is actually Invest 97L, but in the MDR, which is in this area right here between West Africa and the Lesser Antilles, this system could form. Now, to begin wrapping up this video, I want to talk about the beginnings of Lee. It actually rapidly intensified, almost a historic, actually borderline historic system. Not a record breaker, but a definitely very quick intensifying system, from Category 1 to Category 5 in a day. We also have Hova in the Eastern Pacific, which is actually a post-tropical system now with winds of 35 miles per hour and a pressure in the center of the system with 1,005 millibars. This system rapidly intensified, very crazy speed, from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in less than a day, if not a day. So that was definitely very quick intensification. Now the system is expected to move shortly west and then move slightly south in a curve before dissipating completely with its depression winds as a post-tropical cyclone. Looking at the rest of our basins, the Central Pacific is inactive, and Hova is actually nearing the border with the Central Pacific and the Eastern Pacific, but should dissipate completely before it should make any movements in the Central Pacific. Looking at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, we don't have anything active except for 90W. You'll notice that our system moving towards Japan is, its remnants have really dissipated, but 90W has a low chance of forming, and we'll look at our other storms active, or the different invests. 92W is also active, but it's very unlikely of forming. It is located just to the east of Taiwan, or the northeast of the Philippines. Alright, now looking at the severe weather and thunderstorm risk in the United States for today, to end off the video, we have this area of general thunderstorm risk, which spans a large area up and down the east coast of the United States and inland towards the Appalachian region. We could see some isolated stronger storms, but most of them will just be your general thunderstorms and showers. We have another area of a large general thunderstorm risk in the western United States, excluding western Texas and the southern part of Texas, except for the tip of Texas, which could see some thunderstorms as well. We also have this marginal risk for severe weather going from Texas all the way to central Wyoming, which is interesting to see. And then we have a slight risk for Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas, the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, going into the border of Kansas and Colorado. So where we don't have a thunderstorm risk today is the deep south into parts of the Midwest, going into the upper Midwest and the Northwest, and up and down the west coast of the United States. The current radar as of now We actually have some warnings up for one of these storms up here. Looks like it could be producing some hail and damaging winds, so we're having to watch for that. This is moving towards Maryland off the Virginia border. We have some scattered thunderstorms in areas and some isolated thunderstorms. We have a complex of thunderstorms right now in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, also associated with some showers. We have some isolated thunderstorms in central New York and an area of scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms in New England. Right now, Long Island, Connecticut, and western Massachusetts, as well as the Hudson Valley, looks dry as of now, but could see some rain a little bit later today. We have some thunderstorms and showers right now in western Virginia and West Virginia as well. And then, as I said, this small area of stronger thunderstorms moving into Virginia, moving out of Virginia into Maryland, and then we also have some thunderstorms active in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Now, we do have some other thunderstorm advisories as of now. We have severe thunderstorm warnings up for Texas, parts of Texas, in isolated areas, Kansas, just north of Oklahoma, and Wyoming. So we could be seeing more of this as the time goes on. Today we also have some showers in Arizona and along the border with Nevada and Utah. We could be seeing some thunderstorms in this region later today. We also have some showers near California and Nevada, and some showers in Colorado. Finally, we have an area of storminess on a line or scattered about from Iowa to Nebraska all the way down to Kansas. Looks like, as I said, the main area for possible severe weather is in the panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma, and into Kansas along the border with Colorado, but we could also see some severe thunderstorms all the way down into Texas and Wyoming. And also in the East Coast, we could see some marginally severe thunderstorms, which are possibly warmed as we get into the day today, into the evening, rather. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thank you for watching, and look for more updates to come.